First of all, I like to thank the author for just I would like to mention to the audience here, to the delegates here, there's a public awareness program is going on in a very methodical way. But going, say for example, Dr. Nagaki himself goes around to different places, and this is being supported from the past 10-15 years, and but still people go to places like our Hyderabad. It has been arranged here in our Institute of Engineers, and Karnataka and Bangalore itself, it is the Institute of Engineers. They have organized a big program in the northern part of the country, and this is the public awareness programs of the country. And people are invited from the electricity boards and from the state governments to participate as qualified delegates. This kind of a thing is going on, but as you rightly pointed out, and this activity has to be strengthened a lot. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Actually, there are 226 reactors which are proposed, and US itself, in the past, yes, the nuclear addition capacity was slow. I think you are talking of last 10 years. I will tell you, we were operating at plant load capacity factor 60%. That means if 100 megawatt is installed, I am able to give 60. I improved that 60% plant load factor to 90%. Right? Incidentally, I have not shown our performance because time did not permit. Availability factors for nuclear power plant are 100%, not 90. In India, we have achieved several number of years for some of the plants 100% availability factor and capacity factor as high as 90%. That means, so what happened? The world over there was an improvement, right? From 60% to 90%.
Yesterday I was presenting this.
I will show you.
And the South Korea, say for example, it is increasing to about 80%. And France, it is increasing to much higher. And UK, it is going to increase to 50%. There is a lull. This is because people are watching what is going to happen.
No, I will show you.
Yeah.
1 minute. Please give me 1 minute. I will show you.
Germany also.
I will just show you one slide. See, I will show you such a slide which will make you still more proud of our country. Right? The kind of achievement which we have got. Only thing is, it's not coming. I will just tell you, there was a, nuclear power plants earlier used to operate at 60%. That means, for getting 100 megawatt, I need to have 40% higher. Or maybe if I have installed 100 gigawatt, I will only getting 60 gigawatt. 40 will not be available. Now, then the nuclear came some 15 years back. Lots of studies were carried out, people were trained, new methodologies were implemented, and their trips were reduced. Right? So the 60% became 90%. That means that 30% was as good as I have installed the capacity. So very less capacity addition was there in the other countries, Western countries. But you see here, the most important, you see this is NPCI third one, and this is US curve. This is Canada, this is US. These capacity factors earlier were lower, let us say here, and then they were improving. But suddenly what happened? The NPCI crossed here. This curve crosses. Actually, we became toppers. Many of the units, they were rated to be the topmost performing in safety and performance. And one of our unit at Kakabar Unit 1 was awarded with Excellence Award in the year 2002. Narora was fourth. And then Madras and other Kaiga, number of times. Kaiga Station Director Mr. Nageshwar Rao has been facilitated by the world agencies. So what I am telling is, everybody improved, so did we. But then we improved much more. And that is where the entire. You see our availability factors. You see availability factors here. This is since 99 I have given because the graph did not permit me. Previously also, if you go, they were almost similar. Right? You see, right now we are doing some upgradation in our plants. So that is why it is 85. Otherwise, we have got 91, 89, 88.
No, this is all because of very basic R&D that is done in Trombay, BRC. This is primarily and also NPC here, of course. And this is the fuel management. The fuel management in the reactors, so that you get the higher and higher the availability.
The operation premises.
Thank you very much.
Now you see our reactor operated 529 continuous 2 years right now.
We can discuss it at another venue. So I want to wrap up this session. Thank you very much for the presenters for beautiful presentations, very thought-provoking and exciting. Now, please go to the dining place and have a continuation of your discussion there. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Just for you. We are not. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, a lot of
We will now write and meet here at 2:50. Thank you.
So almost all the institutes, I know personally, one who works here, how much interest he took in IP, becoming more and more productive. Not only that, and we had very innovative suggestions from Professor Anand. I think all of us know that he is a scholar of great eminence. He authored a committee report. He did the one for Reserve Bank of India. It's a 7-volume report. It's a classic report which came ahead of this global meltdown. There are several things to talk about, Professor Anand sir. We are extremely grateful. I knew that it would be very difficult for him to spare time, but academics and maybe I will say IP is also close to his heart. Despite several preoccupations, Professor Anand took time off to fly yesterday. That too, I think he arrived at Samshawa airport some time around midnight, and he was in the hotel around 1 a.m. or so. You have taken so much trouble. We are extremely grateful, and we know that you would like this collaboration to be a great success. We are very fortunate to have you. I spoke about Mr. Jaraman, a very proficient manager in public sector, was in NALCO for several years, and from NALCO he moved to NMDC, and from NMDC then he became CMD of Naval Lignite Corporation, and during the years he was in Naval Lignite Corporation, it achieved so many marks. It became a Navaratna, to say, among the number of achievements that they have had, and from there, now he is a member, a very senior member of the Central Electricity Regulatory Authority. Regulation is a very, very complicated and difficult subject, and yet we are lucky to have Professor Anand as chairperson. I had the opportunity to listen to his thinking on regulation, and let me say, I don't think there are many who can talk on regulation. We are also requesting Professor Anand to find some time to visit IP in the month of April, maybe in the 3rd week of April, 24th to 25th, around that time, to talk only on regulation, to select a group of people who come from public sector, from government, from private sector, and those who are undertaking research in this area, research the faculty members of this institute. Now Professor Anand is back to Delhi School of Economics, and I think that's a great thing for all of us. But in any way, I think Professor Anand has been a part of academics. So, welcome to you to this institute, and also to Mr. Chair. We also have Dr. Balram Murthy, and I hope I think this answer. One member secretary, he created this effect. So, this was his great chat. So, I'm interested.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at IP in Hyderabad, and it's always a pleasure to be with the Indo-Russian seminars. This is now third or fourth seminar in which I have been presented. Today's session is on energy regulation and the energy future. Program says that I will make opening remarks. I will use the discretion of the chair and not make opening remarks. I will rather reserve my statements towards the end when I have a slightly better idea of the time. So, without much ado, I request Professor Akimov from the Institute of Oriental Studies to make his presentation on Russia's energy future.
We speak about the future, there's nothing to say about. But as we discussed security, security is always a future. Because if there is no energy right now, it's a disaster. And that is why it's necessary to discuss several issues of Russian energy future. And I was not the one who just invented these scenarios, and I just follow a document that was prepared by the Russian Ministry of Economy, and it is called the concept of the long-term social and economic development of the Russian Federation. Just have a look. There are three scenarios there. As it goes now, I think it's rather clear what is going on now. Fuel and power leading. You see, the idea of this scenario is to make Russia something like United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia structurally, because an effective energy sector produces everything in the country, creates considerable GDP, and all other sectors are fed from the energy sector. And technologically, the idea is to make Russia something like a Norway, with extremely modern and very effective energy-producing technology. And the last one, innovation leading, is like a catch-up development scenario for Russia. To make Russia something like Japan or Germany. Innovations brings everything to the country, GDP grows because of innovations, and that is the idea of all these scenarios. And you see, GDP is minimum if you consider the first scenario, and the last one foresees the most considerable growth of GDP. And as to energy sector, the first one emphasizes the limitations of infrastructure and production capacities, transportation capacities in the sector, and the second one and the third one foresees that all these limitations are removed. So we should say that the scenario number one is pessimistic, the third is optimistic, and the second is realistic. And it is realistic according to the Ministry of Economy of the Russian Federation as well, because they consider that too many people in Russia are interested in this scenario, and that is why it is the most realistic. Now let's see what are the consequences for energy sector according to these three main scenarios. Just have a look. This is a comparison of the current situation. This is a comparison of the current situation and these three scenarios. The table and the graph shows the same situation. Nothing different. Just someone like to see what are the figures, and the others enjoy watching graphs. And let's see what's here on the graph. Coal is near to stable. No considerable changes in the structure. And now see what's going on with oil. It's a considerable decline. You see? This is its current situation, and these are forecasted scenarios. So it's a decline. This is gas sector. Well, nothing new. Situation is stable according to all three scenarios. And now comes a hydro and nuclear sector. A considerable growth. And as to other other sources of energy, the share is negligible. So this is the main understanding of Russia's energy future according to the forecasted structure. And now let's see what's going on in different sectors. The first is electricity sector. These are three scenarios: number 1, number 2, number 3. Pessimistic, realistic, and optimistic. Just see what is the rise of consumption and production. You see, it's near doubling. Electricity consumption and electricity production. If you see all these scenarios, it's even more than doubling. So the growth of electricity production is very considerable. And see what's about nuclear generation. The share is going to be doubled. But on the other side of the coin, you need considerable investment, and I should say right now. You see? This is the problem of all scenarios. The most urgent need for investment comes in the nearest future, and then the need for investments in each scenario goes down. I should say that I found a small piece of coal in this report, a big barrel of oil, and a huge gas tank. So it's called, this paper is called a draft, and there is no information. I should say that absolutely no information about coal sector. So the next sector we are going to examine is Russian oil industry. What's going on there? I just have a look at production. Production number 1, production number 2, production number 3, 3 scenarios. You see, the rise is very slow. Just see what is it on the graph. The situation is quite similar with exports, with the only exception. With the only exception. This exception is the first scenario. It foresees a short rise of exports, and then it goes down sharply. What is the reason for it? Currently, the production and transportation infrastructure of Russian oil sector is adequate, but the wear and tear of it is growing rapidly. This is the first problem. And the second problem is that geographical location of resources and production is changing very rapidly. Old oil fields that were reached are exhausted. Of course, there is some amount of residual oil, but you need a lot of investment to pick it up. Besides, you need additional drilling at the old oil fields. It's costly. The other strategy is to go to new regions, but to new regions. But today we had a brilliant report about Siberia, and you can understand what is it to go to the other regions. It's going north and it's going east. You need additional railroads, infrastructure, new pipelines, and it's very costly. What the situation is with the gas sector? Have a look what's going on with the gas sector. Situation is quite different. Production rise, production rise, production rise. All three scenarios foresee production rise. And besides, all three scenarios foresee a considerable rise of gas exports. If you like the image of Boston Consulting Group matrix, Russian gas industry is still a cow. You see? It brings considerable amount of income, and it just feeds the other sectors of fuel and energy, fuel and power sector. And you see, all these lines go up, contrary to those lines, the lines we examined in oil sector. And the situation with the ratio of production and exports is different in oil industry and gas industry. While exports will go down in oil industry, currently it's something like 53%. 53% of oil produced in Russia goes for exports. And in future, it will be only a half. But in gas industry, about 30% of gas, of produced gas, goes for exports. And according to forecasts, it will be about 36%. Of course, it's less than in oil industry, but still it's growing. Anyhow, the situation in gas industry is not so very bright. Of course, it's better than in oil industry, but still, you need additional drilling. You are facing a shift from super giant oil fields to smaller ones, to the more remote regions. And now let's see what is the price rate, what is the cost. I consider it the most interesting part of my report. I just tried to pick up all estimates of investments in this draft report, and I should say the picture is rather interesting. You see, this is the estimates of investments in Russian rubles. You see, this is the thousands of billions of rubles. This is the share. You see, what is the situation here? Power sector will need the lion's share of investment. It is not the situation like in India, I think. India is just built new power stations. And India, I should say, is free in its policy what technology to use and which places should be where to place and where to place power stations and where not to place. But Russian power sector is very old and obsolete. And the problem is just to make another power sector, just to destroy the old power stations and to build them anew. This is the most serious problem. And you see, oil sector is also investment hungry. And I consider, I just illustrated that all these investments will go just to sustain the present level of production. Even oil refining, that is also in a bad situation. You need a lot of investment just to build more than refining with a better outlet, a higher outlet of gasoline. Still, the investment here is not very high. See, the proportion is very low. And this industry, well, still is not of investment. And then comes estimates in American dollars. The exchange rate is as in August of the previous year, because the principal positions of these reports were written in summer of the year 2008. And this is the level of investments, annual level of investments for about 13-year period. So, you see, this is the result. You need about $10 billion and each and every month, to make these plans, to make these forecasts become infrastructure, new power station, and so on and so forth. You see, the situation currently changed greatly, because when this forecast was prepared, there was a lot of money in the Russian Federation. But current economic crisis has changed everything. This is the first meditation, and currently it goes according to the first scenario, of course. But in the future, all three scenarios should be mentioned, because Russia badly needs new infrastructure in energy sector. And then comes another problem. What about machinery? What about enterprises who are able to produce the equipment that is needed for it? And this is a considerable change for both, I should say, Russia and India, because Russia and India can become competitors in this sector, just hunting for those producers who can make necessary equipment. But another strategy can be just to cooperate in machine building, in production of equipment, just to renew Russia and to build Indian energy sector. Thank you for your time.
Session is by Sri Jayaraman, and he will be talking on the regulatory framework in India for electricity.
Stop.
This is probably one of the lowest in the world. There is no comparison with the United States or Scandinavian countries where it is more than 15,000. As earlier speaker also mentioned, the power sector has got an investment are huge. At each megawatt capacity in each coal or lignite-based thermal power plant, it could be 4 crores, 3 to 3.54. If it is the nuclear, as mentioned this morning, it may be 5.5 or more. So the orderly development of this sector was considered very important, and they got a long history of development, how the controls and regulatory framework work in India. Historically, the first was Indian Electricity Act 1910, which is the first legal framework framed by the British in those days. This was basically to regulate the industry, which was private industry. There was hardly any government role on that in the either generation or distribution, because long transmissions were not there, confined to the cities and towns, because the power was not available in distant places. Then after independence, the act was replaced with the Electricity Supply Act 1948. This is the most important document last 50 years or nearly 40 years have been working. The essential features was practically started the nationalization of the electrical industry. It resulted in the formation of the electricity boards and Central Electricity Authority. Whatever the private distribution network or power generators were one by one nationalized, except a few you have in Tata Power in Bombay or CSC in Calcutta, Ahmedabad. One or two, barring a few exceptions, in many states where you had the private enterprises in the power sector, they were all nationalized. And electricity boards were formed, which became a monolith for the power generation, transmission, as well as the distribution, and entirely at the control of the government. As you know, the federal setup, the power is there in the concurrent list of the Constitution, so the authority